Hello hero, it's Lucy Lannon. I'm back with your esoteric tombola, your psychic lucky dip, the A to Z excursion through the divination alphabet, and we're here with the letter Q today, randomly chosen words in this little envelope, putting that back, beginning with the letter Q, that will be a prompt for a mini reading on any kind of subject. If you would like to add to the little envelopes of possible words that we can use, then absolutely comment down below with anything like A is for automobile, B is for bastard X, C is for cat, etc. Anything that you would like a reading on that I can add to these little things, because at the moment we're dealing with this deck from 1650, but we will also sort of work through other decks going through the alphabet again. So if we already passed your letter, and there is a playlist down below which I'll link, then we can always do a reading at a later date on your word of choice. That said, I don't want any names or place names in your suggestions. Name-wise, we don't want to focus this many people's attention on one person because that's ethically fraught. Place name-wise, we want it to be able to relate to everybody viewing. And these are general readings made for a hopefully large audience eventually. So we don't want to get too specific about location, although we hopefully will get specific about what it is that the cards are saying in relation to the word that we pull from your pile. Now, every time that I do these Marseille minis, I do kind of a tarot pile and then a channeling pile, right? I'm being called to shuffle these again. I do take reversals. So you will want to pick something tarot and then something for your other divination. Sorry, my brain is trying to catch up with my shuffling right now. This one is a particularly special reading because I've never done an ink reading before on this channel. I know that ink and candle wax and stuff like that is sort of trendy at the moment. It's something I've used for myself, but I honestly didn't realise there was interest in it until I'm kind of seeing it crop up elsewhere with other witches. So, you know, we've done touch readings for channeling, we've done flame gazing, bit of scrying before, but this will be the first letter reading where we're using dropping ink into water and me reading from the shapes therein. So if you're into that kind of thing, please do pick a channeled pile. Now, tarot reading wise, we're going to have A, B and C. And then channeled reading wise, you can pick the same one or a different one. We're going to have 1, 2 and 3. Please pick your pile and I will meet you at your random word. Okay, so tarot pile A or reading 1, whichever you prefer. I am going to reshuffle these. And then we're going to pick out your random word from the letter Q. Q is for quarantined. Wow, starting with a banger, are we? That's quite interesting. Okay, I'm not going to presume what it's about. I'm just going to get the cards for now. You're not. Are you part of it? No, you're not. You are though. And one of you. And you. And you. Who wants to be turned over? We can get confirmations if we need them, but generally with this deck, I tend not to. I'm just going to move that up so that we can see everything. And we're going to roll the D&D die just to get a bit more specificity. That landed on a 12. Okay. So there is a sense already with quarantined and 12 of entrapment, imprisonment, confinement within a certain location. So that may speak to your circumstances or something to do with what we're reading about. But I'm just going to take a moment with these cards to sort of meditate, and there'll be a quick cut which hopefully you won't feel. Okay, so we can pretty easily say that this one's about confinement because we've got 12th house and quarantined involved. But if this isn't about anything sort of Rona related or about being stuck in the same place, then just take what you see as fit. because this is a general reading for a large number of people, hopefully eventually please subscribe. There are kind of two scenarios I see playing out. The first is, you know, the logical thing of some of you are confined to a space because either you're ill or there's a chance of you being ill and you're kind of stuck in one place until you know better, right? The scenario I'm getting is that, you know, hopefully this isn't a resurgence of pandemic type stuff, but maybe you're wanting to travel somewhere and you're in a quarantine period, having travelled or about to travel, or your journey has been delayed because of like symptoms that may need checking out. For others of you, this is a confinement in the sense of punishment, I want to say, whether that's you or somebody else close to you. I want to sort of almost say, because of this justice reversed, is somebody imprisoned? Is somebody, or are you kind of imprisoned in a situation because of somebody else's not so above board activity? In either case, I want to say that somebody close to you, probably someone female, probably someone who is either quite sexual or was very sexual in her youth, depending on who this is the reason that you got yourself in this situation. So if you're sort of scared of, I want to say, imprisonment because you've got yourself in a pickle, I want to say that the initial reason for this pickle was a female figure. And if it's that you are confined because there's a risk of passing something on or infecting somebody close to you that might be vulnerable or something like that, then I want to say that it's the risk was posed by someone around you who was being a bit careless with themselves, who is probably female or feminine identified, right? The injustice of this, in either case, is the undercurrent of the situation. And I have to say it could be a legal injustice or a legal situation, just because the justice card in reverse is with kind of the house placement of imprisonment. But again, that won't resonate for everybody here. I doubt that you're watching this from prison. I doubt that all of you in that sort of scenario are going to end up in a prison or anything like that. But it points to a possible legal pickle or a sense of fear of confinement because of the actions of somebody else, or your actions being pushed by someone around you. The other narrative that I'm getting, again for a minority, is that you may have been blackmailed by a female figure whose actions are not above board, and you want to be careful that your conduct from here on in is on a higher ground than theirs, right? And is that you're not going to get yourself into trouble transferring or doing something fishy because of what this person is threatening in a way that is actually going to end up bigger than whatever the situation was, right? Again, just for some of you. There's definitely an overarching feeling of defensiveness because we've got a 7 of Wands, right? Fighting people off, fighting off opinions. This could also be somebody spreading rumours about you having had a criminal past or a period of confinement, or maybe even for some of you, somebody's like targeting your reputation by talking about your behaviour during the pandemic being irresponsible or being something that had other people put in confinement because you couldn't be trusted not to spread things or whatever, right? But there's some kind of feminine here that is affecting your reputation, your opinion of yourself, and whether or not you see yourself as being confined in a way that leaves you feeling extremely defensive in multiple areas. So if this is a legal situation, you feel that there could be witnesses coming at you from all sides. If this is purely social, you feel that there are several friends, several family members that are fished in by what this person has been saying, and that as a result, you're kind of quarantined to your own household or your own sphere or your own room in some way, because you kind of can't get back into the network that you were part of, because it seems like the person pulling all the strings within that network is now this figure. Now, I'm noticing they're looking at the cups and the pentacles. So if any of you are in that situation and you're asking what the fuck they want or why somebody would do something like this, the answer is kind of an equal mix of love and money. And I don't really mean love, right? Because love is unconditional, it's caring, it's supportive, it's there for you no matter what. It's supportive of you no matter what your past was as well, and it can keep secrets about maybe some of you who've had a less than positive background. But I'm talking sort of feelings, right? So if this person doesn't exhibit what you would call loving behaviour, certainly they have what they think is love or crush behaviour or admiration for you in a way that sort of slides into jealousy. There is also a feeling that they have an eye on your material resources. So again, this is why it points to maybe blackmail or somebody sort of wanting to tarnish your reputation because they wish to get the most out of you financially that they can for the longest that they can. And perhaps the way to do that, very narcissistic, but not necessarily labeling them a narcissist, is to isolate you from your network, make you feel defensive with people that are otherwise supportive, in order that they appear to be kind of your only saviour, that you are quarantined from the rest of the world, isolated with them, and that in doing that, they get financial benefit from you that perhaps would have been spread more evenly between people you know, or even material resources that you would have used for yourself if you weren't constantly in contact with this person. There's a very codependent energy here, and I don't just mean emotionally, I mean I'm going to do what I can to stay around this person because I see financial stability in them, even if I couldn't care less whether I damage them long term, right? And that, it may be confusing being sort of tied up with feelings of lustfulness, admiration, semi-loving energy. But quite often with these toxic relationships, there are very mixed motivations, and you get one person who's isolated from who they were, who they used to be around, etc., in a very unjust way, a very defensive way, but a way that benefits one party. And if it is tied in with loving feelings, and I say that in inverted commas, that can be the thing that protects this person from being seen by other people. Because always in these kinds of situations, somebody who is isolated from the ones that they love, like the ones that they love need to not believe them, right? And there are only so many ways to do that. Certainly within feminine sphere, there are very specific ways nowadays, and that could come into it for some, although I still stand by believe all women, right? But it's this thing of like, the Five of Pentacles also deals with excommunication, right? In the Smith-Waite deck, we would think of the people being churned out of the church and one of them on crutches in the snow, right? So there's this sense of what was community is now being excised from community, is now excommunicated from the previous understanding of them. And whatever is kind of offered back to this community is not accepted because we're in a Four of Cups, which is refutation of energy coming in, or like, no, I don't know whether to take that offer. No, I don't know whether to accept help. I feel defensive. I feel trapped. So there's almost a sense within which somebody in your circle is possibly manipulating the people that you're closest to in order to get the best from you, but in a way that like they're sort of expressing to them that they have nothing but love for you, so that they will be believed, so that the scheme can continue, so that eventually they can possibly ruin your reputation, blackmail you, get more money out of you, get, for some of you, more sex out of you, or get some kind of power over your situation because of an undercurrent of jealousy they feel that they may not even be aware of, right? Notice she's looking away from the wand representing this kind of passion, spirit of impulse. So I don't think this person is even fully cognizant of all of their motivations, but I think that you are very aware of the effect of all of this on you, and you're increasingly feeling trapped. What I want to also say is that we tend to quarantine people to isolate them so that they can recover to return to the outside world. So on a more spiritual, broad level, this process could be happening for you or for someone you know, if you're taking it that way. Because the longer that you or they spend in isolation in these horrible circumstances, the stronger you are to come back as a slightly different person and achieve your overall purpose. And I know that not all of you will like that as a way of viewing this, because what is happening is unjust, it's cruel, right? It's very calculated, it's very Machiavellian, it's shitty behaviour. But the fact is that you must recover in order to emerge from a quarantine. So what that means in a practical sense for you is that you absolutely have to recognise what the disease is, right? And if somebody's speaking to your face with words of love, with words of support for your material self, perhaps praise for your body, praise for the amount of money you make, etc., it's sometimes very difficult to isolate how this situation began to that individual and to say, you know what, I think you've been having conversations without me that have left me feeling like I need to defend myself to everybody that I used to love, or have left me feeling like I'm trapped in a place, trapped in a circle, quarantined to a certain kind of a life, right? And that is, like, nobody wants to accuse somebody else of that. But I think that this period of isolation for you is about unpicking who this person really is to you. And with it being a kind of Queen of Wands figure, it's like, you may find them very attractive, you may find them sexy, you may find them inspirational if they're not somebody who's like a love figure to you, if they're instead family or a friend or something. And again, this could be someone just with very feminine energy, but there is this idea of the passive in there, of the feminine in a sort of archetypal sense. So if this is a man, they're going about things in less of a direct solar way and more of an indirect lunar way, which, you know, if you are dealing with anyone cluster B, read that as they're going under the radar, they're going behind backs, they're doing work covertly, they're researching behind closed doors. Again, this points to some kind of legal stuff as well, because all of that is done within the confines of an office that you don't get to see, right? Evidence is stacked against somebody in a very sort of necessarily secret way in order to promote justice in a situation. But sometimes that passive approach, that secret approach, is the very thing that leaves somebody completely isolated from any help, because they couldn't possibly know how to counter what's been said or done without bringing it up into the light, into the sun, into the open, into the masculine. So we have a situation where, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you're not going to know how to counter this in a practical way. If this is blackmail, I don't see you being able to go directly to the police about it because of the nature of what it is. If it's more of a sort of social thing, I don't see you getting everyone back. I instead see that the necessary component to this process is actually letting go of the person who is in quarantine, as in of the old self, of the self that allowed this person to take power over you. And the healing that you do, the kind of immunity, the repair, before you're allowed to move in the outside world in a spiritual sense and in a practical sense, is to shed not only this figure, but the version of yourself that would have been vulnerable to them. So there's self-examination required here as to how somebody like this, A, made their way into your life, and B, got away with it, right, for so long. Because I don't feel this is a new thing. They know you well enough to hit your weak spots. They know the people around you well enough to affect their view of you in quite a damaging way. And some of that will be repaired, but not all of it, I think. Basically, they know enough of you to be unjust, to be cruel, right? And the way to bring this into justice is not to say, but how did they go about it? And who is involved? And how can I convince this person that this is a lie? And all of that stuff, because you can't see the full picture right now. The way to heal on a more immediate sense and to be able to move through the world without group harassment, without fear of what people think of you, without your past catching up with you, without blackmail, without legal ramification, etc., is actually to look at the side of yourself that was initially sort of conned and drawn in and let that go. And be like, right, these are the behaviours I had when I met this person. These are the things that I did with my life. These are the habits that I had, the kinds of friendships I formed, the kind of trust bonds or trauma bonds that were around me, and I'm letting it all go. And I think that as soon as you do that, because the physical naturally follows the spiritual, there will be a kind of chink of light coming through of like, how do I address the overall situation of injustice? But I don't think you can see the practical tools to use to expose this person's machinations without first doing the internal work, all right? So I'm sorry that was a bit of a downer reading, but I hope it was at least relevant. Please, to the extent that you're able to be transparent about this, hit me up down below, even if it's just to say pile 1 and it was accurate, because I love your feedback. If you did like it, please click like, subscribe, ding the dong, thank you kindly. And I will hopefully see you in a slightly tonally different ink divination pile, just to sort of supplement this with some stuff that may be more cheerful. All right? Take care, pile 1. Right then, to the exciting bit, pile 1. I've got some ink here, and here I've got some blessed salt with a little thyme in it. So we're gonna firstly drop that into the water, and that should help it to settle in a strange way. And then we're gonna drip from this alcohol-based ink and see what comes up. There's something here about a gathering, particularly a gathering of women, that's coming up for you. So if you've been thinking about booking a retreat with other women, or there's a family thing that involves a lot of people, I would say that's a positive thing. Definitely go forward with that. Now, what are you showing me here? It may even be like a party atmosphere thing. I see dancing, right? I'm also seeing the bit at the beginning of Sleeping Beauty where the fairies come to bless the baby. So there may be some kind of baby shower that's mostly women or female only, or something like that that's imminent for you. And this is your confirmation that it's your pile. There's also a letter E in this, so I don't know whether that's the name of the child or the name of a friend, but there's something to do with E. For some of you, the combination of dancing and the letter E, you know what's coming up, right? But that's only for some. This is a general reading. Some of you are embracing the fire element in some way. Are you trying to keep warm? Are you setting fires, doing fire magic, something like that? 2 seconds while I check. Wow, some of you are researching explosives or fire in a kind... Oh, it might be fireworks. Some of you are looking into fireworks, making fireworks. Or there's something to do with, I mean, when this goes out, if you're seeing it live, it will be sort of coming up for bonfire night in the UK, so it might be to do with that. There's definitely something about fire here. I'm also, don't laugh, but I'm seeing Mike Wazowski, and then I'm seeing a string of butterflies, sort of, Mike's here, and the butterflies are here-ish, if you can see. So there's somebody that's transforming from, I want to say somebody very outwardly obnoxious, but with little impact, right? Somebody very theatrical, somebody very big personality in the room, but who secretly their self-esteem is in the toilet, and they're going to be undergoing some kind of glow-up or transformation into what? Into a high achiever, because I'm seeing this mountain here. There's this sort of Capricorn feeling, right? For those of you who have dogs or who live in an area where other people have dogs, you're going to make a new friend that's something to do with dog walking or taking an animal out and about or being outside to look for animals if you're more of a bird watcher or something like that. You may even, because this guy here sort of taking notes, I don't know whether you can see that, there might be a sense under which you're sort of doing something out in nature where you're journaling or taking notes on the wildlife or even keeping a magical journal outside in a way that's sort of quite unusual for the time of year, or you're not just clearly sat there with a book in the middle of summer kind of thing. And somebody new is going to approach you during that process and you're going to make a valuable friend, I think. But there needs to be a balance, a give and take with this person, because I'm seeing the initial figure sat on a seesaw. Or it's like one of those, I don't know what they're called, but it's not quite a seesaw, but it's like those wibbly things on springs that you get in British playgrounds. I don't know whether they're all over. But it's almost like you need to treat this person tentatively because there's a sense that they may topple. They're not a bad influence in your life. If anything, they're really positive, but I think you need to approach them with a kind of delicacy. Now we have 3 floaters here, so they're more than likely female. And I'm seeing 2 at the outer edge, so there's something hidden. Now what is that? I feel like this person came together with somebody in an intentional way that they were separated from unintentionally. There's a sense of estrangement, or for some it's somebody who was separated from a loved one by war or something like that. This may not be the kind of person you speak to ordinarily, but I think that there's something to it if you do treat them delicately. I'm also seeing seahorses for some of you, so this person, how do I put this? They may have had a lot of people under their care, or if they're not female, they may have several children, not necessarily to the same person. But again, you need to be careful about what you say about this, because I think they could be a really valuable ally. I think that they've got a very complex past, and it might be something to approach tentatively because it's not within your realm of experience. There's another seahorse here. So there's something in that. You might want to look up the totemic value of seahorse as well, or if there are seahorses kind of where you are in the world. Like, first hit me up down below because that's cool, but also there's something about that, right? That may be, I'm getting for some of you, there's like a marine biology element where you're out taking notes on a beach or something, and this is how you meet somebody very different to you, who's very valuable, who will be an asset to your life and vice versa. But again, there's this teeter-totter of you need to treat them very carefully, you need to be very delicate in the way that you're used to presenting, which again might be why we had Mike Wazowski. It doesn't mean that it's you, but it does mean that there's like a very sort of gung-ho expression here, and then there's somebody who does not express like that. Now I'm seeing like the fish from Fantasia, so this person might be quite graceful, or you might be. There's something about dancing with scarves for some of you, or about kind of moving in a very graceful, very unusual way, and either you catch this person's attention because of that or vice versa. But I do feel that you'll either be with an animal if you have one, if you spend time with one, or there will be something related to nature about how you meet. this is getting a bit serious. There was a time in your life, right? I hope it's not too vague. I'm going to go into it deeper, but there was a time where you were changing your hair. You were either growing it out, cutting it short, dyeing it a strange colour, something like that. And I'm getting that at that point you felt adrift. It's almost like I'm getting this image of a boat out to sea that's far away from anything recognisable and or anyone's input. And it's almost like you were kind of, I want to say you were altering your appearance to regain attention because you felt completely isolated from other people. And I'm not saying that in a shady way, because God knows I've had some attention-grabbing hair colours and styles over the years. But it was almost like you were trying to reconnect with a different facet of yourself in order to just be acknowledged, in order to, I'm hearing for some of you, to be touched or to be spoken to. So you may have been in a new environment or an environment that was a bit lonely for you. And this could be as far back as like when you were in school or something, but there's something significant about it. Tell me what it was, guys. There's an imprint of that particular thing sort of left in you, like I'm seeing a crater, right? I don't want to blindly recommend my self-concept reading again, but if you feel drawn to it, it might be a thing. But there's something about that time period where you changed your hair, or where hair was a thing, that has left a mark. Now, for some of you, I'm hearing if you don't really change your hair, or you never really have, there's a conversation about hair with somebody. And I feel like they were being protective. I don't know whether it was you or someone else, but there's something about that moment that has left an imprint that needs to be looked back on now or referred to in your current circumstances, okay? I don't know, you tell me, right? Share in the comments. Now, I'd like more straightforward life stuff, please. I think some of you have forgotten how to move through the waters that you're currently in, right? It's like a fish who's forgotten how to swim and has been sort of taken away with the current a little bit. There is a sense that you're feeling about navigating where you currently are is off somehow. And you're clinging to, like, I'm seeing this guy over here and this sort of blob that went towards it. It's like clinging to a life raft. And this was the blob that initially was whirling sort of out of control. Now, I don't necessarily think you are out of control at the moment, but I think that your recent circumstances have left you, if not adrift, then I think you've been feeling that this is an environment that you're not used to. So that might be a new employment environment or a new familial one for some of you. But there's a sense that, like, you felt very capable in a certain area and now not so much. And you're kind of relearning the ropes. And what I want to say about that is that that's all it is. It's just learning how to move in that particular way again. It's not that your ability to move in general is defunct or flawed or something like that. It's that you're finding yourself in a new current and you need to learn to swim against it in a way that's sort of unusual for you. But it's not a problem, right? There is no solution to it. It's just a reassurance from spirit that if you feel a little bit topsy-turvy right now, keep going at it, because I think this is going to be something that's resolved with time and with just observing people around you. I'm hearing hypervigilance, so you may need to be extremely alert about the responses of those around you, and just sort of take things as they come, and sort of, what I'm getting is that you're entering into a very adaptive mode, and for a while you've been in your comfort zone. So again, employment is pinging off for me, but not necessarily for all of you, because very broad audience. But there's something where you've been doing all right, and then suddenly you've gone up a level and you're kind of having to relearn how to move, and that's okay, right? And it doesn't mean, the initial struggle with it doesn't mean that anything's going wrong. It's just a learning curve, okay? Anything else? What about the people around you? What about that kind of stuff? If you've been wanting to eliminate any toxicity around you, I see those people removing themselves from your circumstances without you lifting a finger. And I don't even think that spirit is necessarily intervening. You may have watched my enemy reading at the time and done something, but I think now any influence which is not sort of right for you is going to naturally drop off because you've been taking a different direction yourself. And I think your vibration's going up, or you're leveling up in some way, or you're just approaching things slightly differently. It'd be really interesting to see what the card reading is for this pile, because there's this sense that, like, by letting go of something, that it's some identity that you were previously, and just doing your own thing and moving forward without paying attention to anybody else, it's like somebody who might have been a bit of a problem for you or a niggle is just removing themselves from the picture in some way. And again, this may be initially uncomfortable for some, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's just the way that you moving into your purpose is gonna affect your life. Excuse me. Now I'm getting like throat chakra attack. So this may have been someone who tried to control your speech, or who tried to restrict you from saying certain things, and it was annoying. I mean, there's a full spectrum from annoying to outright harmful, right? But whatever it was, I don't think they can prevent you from being yourself anymore. That's what I want to say. There's also somebody drifting around the edge of this that makes me think of some of the sort of creatures in an anime that I've been watching, that it's like somebody that's not a bad thing but is wearing a mask. I think maybe you've kind of infiltrated a new community or a new place or a new job or something like that whilst wearing the mask of, I want to say, innocence. And that's not to say that you're not innocent. My innocence reading may be relevant, but it's just like you've been wearing, again, I'm hearing sheep's clothing, and it's not that you're the wolf, but there's something about the way you've presented that is not the whole picture of you, and you were doing it to be careful. And I think that has been a success, and you can sort of now take the mask off a bit, or people are getting to know the real you. Particularly for those for whom the beach thing was accurate earlier, I think, like, it's more important now than ever to take your mask off, and that when you meet this kind of new figure, they might help with that, or they might help you to realise that you don't necessarily need to adapt to other people in order to get ahead. I'm hearing there's something about the welfare of people close to you as well. Let's have a look. Yeah, this is at home or in a sort of family context. Might be to do with siblings for some of you, but for many of you I'm reading kids. What about them? You may have a concern about somebody that's close to you sort of going their own way in a very beeline fashion. I don't know whether you saw this guy drifting towards me at high speed compared to the others. Someone's having a rebellious bit. I don't want to call it a phase because I never grew out of mine. But someone's sort of going their own way speedily and not listening to anybody sort of shouting them back to the unit. So again, this could be a familial unit, but you bend as you see fit. I don't think it's anything to worry about. I think that in sort of drifting into their own space, their own comfort zone, right, they're going to be looking back at you and at others that they love and sort of asking themselves where you are. It's almost like the thing I'm getting in my head is like a small child running away from home. Not to panic you, it's just an analogy. small child running away from home, but then looking back down the street to see if mummy or daddy is following, right? It's that thing of like, yes, they're going in a certain direction very fast, but what you don't see is that they're also checking to see how that's been received. And I think that checking, if you sort of stay present, if you stay near them and you just kind of hover around them without trying to correct what they're doing, without trying to ask them to be a certain way, I think they will sense in an ambient sort of a way that you are looking after them, loving them, protecting them, and they will kind of seek to be close to you again. I don't think, what I'm saying is that if somebody is moving away from the way you would do things right now, I don't think it's a rejection of you. I think it's just a thing of like, remain in their sights and let them do it, all right? Because they will come back around to, actually, these people, these values are important. And actually they needed to go off on their own. They needed to beeline in that direction. They may even need to retain some of that far into the future, and that's not for you to decide, particularly if this is a child, right? But there's something about somebody's movements being so fast that they kind of panic someone else, but it's not anything to worry about. That seems to be the theme of your reading, right? Or your channeled reading, is that the things that you're worried about currently are not really as major as they appear. And again, in interacting with this new person, bear in mind that the things that you prioritize as being crucially important or devastating or fantastic or whatever it is may not be the same values that this person holds. And you need to be just curious, just patient, and see what their life experience is, and then kind of come forward as your true self and weigh in, right? But there's a sense of holding back in a very amiable way when you're interacting with somebody brand new. So I hope that was helpful. I'm guessing that you're seeing this after you've watched a tarot reading. If not, please do feel free to pick a pile. Check out the rest of the channel if you want to. I've got 1001 playlists of multi-pile readings which may be of use to you. Please subscribe if you haven't. I think I said like the reading if you haven't, but please do. And share like mad with anybody who would enjoy this channel, because it's tiny and I want to grow it. I'll be here throughout Utober doing a video a day. Some stuff like this, some other stuff where I'm on camera, all kinds of things, and on all kinds of subjects. So do stick around and take care, Pile 1. Pile B or Pile 2, hello. Lovely to see you again. I think I said that in the ink divination bit as well, which I've already filmed, but I can't remember what else I said, so let's just see whether it all lines up, shall we? That's presuming you picked the same channeled pile as your tarot pile, which may not be the case, who knows. This guy wants to come out already. I'm doing things slightly different order to Pile 1, which is good because that shows me it's a new energy and it's very keen to come out. Excellent stuff. We'll pick the cards and then we'll pick the cue is forward, shall we? Alright, I'm going to actually line these up sort of up here so that you can see them more properly. And I'll just keep the layout in my own mind. Q is for quoted. Okay. And we are dealing with, excuse me, the 11th house. So this is likely a friendship reading, a network reading, something like that. But I'm going to take a quick moment with the cards just to sort of meditate and get a general meaning. And there will be a cut that you hopefully won't feel, and I'll be back in a jiff. Right, gang, this is an interesting one because this may well follow on in a more optimistic way from Pile 1's tarot. So if you were sort of torn between piles, this is your confirmation to maybe watch that first and then watch this one, because I think this is a happier message, but perhaps involving a similar person, right? All right, so I don't know why, but I seem to have been getting these messages recently about people pulling bullshit in your life, or fishy people, or haters, or whatever. And I don't like to focus on that, but it seems like this is what we're getting today. 11th house indicates to me something to do with friendships, network, perhaps humanitarian endeavour, but it tends to be, for me, to do with your family and friends, with emphasis on friends. And we've got a situation which began with the Ten of Swords, then is the Page of Swords, the Seven of Cups reversed, the Two of Wands reversed, and ending in the Devil. Do not panic that it ends in the Devil. That's actually one of the more empowering cards that you could have. And I feel it represents you, but in a triumphant way that we'll explore in a minute. This Page of Swords is some envious bastard, hence Pile One's Tarot, that I think has been close enough to you at some point, friendship maybe, to misquote you to other people, to hear what it is that you were saying about your life at one stage or another, and then to perhaps repeat it to other people, either out of context or with embellishments that don't put you in a favourable light. And I think whether or not you know that this person has been doing these things, you've been in a Ten of Swords dynamic with others, you are tired, you are in victim mindset, you are bedraggled, perhaps abandoned by some of the people close to you, or feeling a vibe that you're not a fan of. And I think that it's very directly to do with whatever this person's been up to or thinking or kind of sharing. This could be as simple a situation as someone's been firing evil eye at your successes because they heard you say at a much earlier stage that you didn't feel very successful and they were quite happy with that. But you sort of surpassed them maybe since that point and they're feeling a bit ruffled about that. So there's a bit of like jealous stuff fired your way on a subconscious level. Or if it's not energetic, like I say, this could be somebody who's directly communicating to your mutuals that you said this and you said that and you were having a terrible time. And they're doing so with some pride because I think that's kind of what they want for you. And it feels shitty to say because this is an ex-friend, but man, have I been in this situation relatively recently, right, where I was very close to somebody who I confided in on a pretty daily basis at one of the low points of my entire life when I was being hit from all sides in all facets with terrible stuff going on. And I noticed that this person started to take a turn with me when things were less terrible, and then sort of found out through a combination of divination and actual loyalty later that they'd been saying all kinds of shit, both in terms of repeating stuff I'd said and then just making stuff up, in order to paint me as somebody who was kind of an eternal failure, because I think that they were hoping that I would fail because it made them look less bad. And I get that this is a very similar situation with you. So there is somebody who, whether or not they've spoken this aloud, has been firing this kind of stuff at you. And with them being a Page of Swords, they have been watching you very carefully. I'm seeing this as like social media stalking, perhaps under false accounts, perhaps under the real stuff. This person may still be smiley and nice to your face, but I don't doubt that if you're in this pile, you will know who I'm referring to, because even if they come across as being completely okay, you're getting a vibe from them, either that they're not all right with everything, particularly when you're successful, or that there's something going on between them and other people you're close to, which is a bit fishy. And this is why I point you to pile one if you feel sort of trapped by this situation, or if you're with somebody that you used to trust who is now seemingly forming alliances with people around you in a way that you don't like but can't put your finger on, then pile one is for you as well. And I mean the tarot, not just the channeled, right? But yeah, they're watching very carefully. You may see them in your Instagram stories. You may notice missed calls from, numbers you can't identify, etc. They're getting a bit obsessive, they're getting a bit stalky, but I don't think they would ever admit this to the sorts of people that they talk to about you, even if those other people do notice that there's something weird going on here, right? Or at least some of them. With the Seven of Cups in reverse and the Two of Wands in reverse, what they're watching for is that you don't believe you have dreams or plans any longer, right? I think there was a time where either you confided in this person that you weren't feeling on top, or you felt like you'd hit a dead end, or that you didn't have the confidence to go forward anymore, or you felt depressed or something like that. And if they didn't hear it directly from you because they weren't that close to you, I think they possibly heard it from someone else who was close to you, or they were in the room at the time or something like that. And you may not have picked up on it, but they were comfortable with that, right? They may not have actively wished you ill, but they certainly were like, well, if you hit a dead end, that doesn't make me look bad for where I am, right? Which is why I use the example of my, shall we say, ex-friend, who was very much this Page of Swords. The reason that the word is Q is for quoted is because I think they took something you said verbatim and, as I say, either embellished it or sort of passed it on in a context which wasn't altogether honest. This may even be that you confided in them many years ago about a feeling that you had towards a certain person or a certain part of your life when you were very frustrated or sad or something like that. And they have quoted it, but made it out to others like you said it really recently, right? For some of you, I'm hearing this is a marriage situation where somebody that you were friends with for a long time before you got hitched heard something that you said that was anti-marriage or anti your person, or just lonely or sad, or in another way some sort of careless or anti-marriage thing. And they're repeating that to your partner as if you said it last week and completely out of context. And it's this kind of thing of, oh, I'm only saying it because you said it and I care about you so much, but it's actually stirring the pot. And it's a deliberate attempt, if you were wondering, at sabotaging what it is that they see you have now. Because in watching you, they're watching and waiting for you to say, oh, I just can't imagine a good future for myself. Oh, there's no point in making plans anymore. I'm back where I was, right? But actually, this devil, right? What an absolute lad. He's barging in. He's got faces everywhere, which indicates that you have a lot of different facets of yourself that are breathing fire, that are very organised, very passionate, very fired up. Right? He's got his tail swishing, which to me sort of suggests this protective, like, get out of my way kind of energy. He's got wings, which does suggest momentum, maybe travel plans, maybe expansion of a business or of a relationship. All in all, right, he's cooking on gas. And taking the fact that it's the devil aside, he's doing very well for himself. And he's actually just sort of walking through into this life situation, aiming for these Ten of Swords to be like, right, that's old energy, let's clear this out, let's burn it up and move on, you know, put it back in the forge, we're done with it. And this person is watching nervously because the kind of behind all the stuff that they want to be true of you, they see this devil self in approach, and they see that really, although you're facing the same way, you're not even really noticing them. You're too busy doing your own thing, talking to the head that's in your stomach, thinking about whether you want to fly for the rest of the journey or whether you just want to walk. He's giving me all this like gung-ho, really happy energy. And this may even be in relationship to other people as well. This person may be watching you make more friendships, enter into a really positive partnership, or just thrive in areas that they find particularly difficult. And I think that they're seeing this and they're kind of unsheathing their sword, like ready for battle. But this is just the one sword. And behind them, you have 10. There is also a thing with it being the devil of you living deliciously. For those of you who are my film fans, right? I think that if they are watching, for instance, an Instagram, they're seeing you have quite an opulent lifestyle. And if they are quoting you to other people, or misquoting you, or taking your former words in a modern context, I don't think for the life of me that all of the people they're approaching believe this shit, because they're seeing the same social media feed. they're seeing the same things as this other person spying. They may even see more of it if you've blocked this other person, right? If they can only see what you've got on public, and the people they're trying to sort of turn against you or trying to misquote you to know you better or see more of your life, it's all sort of bullshit. It's all, you know. And with these Seven of Cups, they sort of look to me like they're tumbling down and about to sort of bash everywhere and spill everywhere. And it makes me think of the end of Labyrinth, where it all sort of comes crashing down because Sarah says, you have no power over me, right? This person doesn't have the power in this situation. This reading is to tell you about the specific thing of them misquoting you so that you can be on the alert for that, and you can, perhaps if anybody's acting fishy around you, you can say, you know, at one point in my life I would have said something like this, but that hasn't been true for several years, and this is why. You know, hiccups, confirmation. I'm sort of here to tell you, really, that whatever it is that they're pulling out of your mouth and trying to say as their own, it's not fucking working, because you're smashing it. You're doing an absolutely amazing job. And if this is a follow-on from pile 1, this is you having gone through your period of confinement, done the work on yourself and on what made you vulnerable to inviting in such a figure. And then being like, right, I'm free. I'm fancy free. I'm free for anything fancy. Let's do this. Let's paint the town red and set it on fire. Wicked, right? And they're sort of seeing you emerge, having set a trap for you. And I don't know whether you can tell from this body language, but it's very, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. You know? It's not just they've found me out, but it's like, and they barely notice me, right? This devil is absolutely going to just, if the page doesn't get out of the way, I can imagine it swishing them out of the way or kicking them or not even seeing them in some fashion. And the page knows, right? They're scared shitless right now. And that's basically the message I'm here to impart to you. I don't think there's any real advice or action at your end other than be aware that it's your own words that they've used so that you can sort of remember what you said and be like, yeah, that's nonsense now because people change. And I think if you have to have one of those conversations with, say, a spouse or a group of friends or something like that, it will be very easily accepted because the proof is in the pudding. And you are in a position where you're walking around being very loud and fiery and making plans, versus a person who is in the position where they're obsessed with somebody else's progress. Who would you believe? The person spying on somebody else and talking about them in every conversation, or the person living their life and absolutely smashing it? So enjoy your pleasures, have your party, live deliciously. This person is really of no consequence anymore. And also, if you were misquoted, I suppose the thing to pull from it is to watch your words in future if you're ever at a low point. But honestly, with you aiming for this Ten of Swords, I don't see a low point coming. I think you're just going to pick up the old and, as I say, throw it into the fire and smelt it into something new. So, if that was useful to you, please like, subscribe, ding the dong, thank you kindly. Please do stick around for a channeled portion if you fancy it, or check out pile 1 if that did seem relevant. If you do subscribe through October, I'm putting out a video a day, and there's already a YouTuber playlist going if you want to catch up on the last 14 or so readings that I've done by what I want to say is about the 7th, if this is going out at the right time. But yeah, let me know your feedback in the comments. I would love to know what your situation is. Particularly as this is like a very personal one for me because I've kind of been in your shoes. And take care. Pile 2, welcome back, beautiful. So we've got some alcohol-based ink here, and we've got some blessed salt with a little bit of thyme here, just to make the ink do more interesting things when it's in the water, so that I get a clearer message. If you want to charge this water with intention, I didn't say this for pile 1, but absolutely, you can sort of put whatever you want to ask into here. And if not, let's just see what it brings up, right? I'm enjoying doing these kinds of readings. If you want to see more kind of bizarre forms of divination, then please, for a start, subscribe to boost my numbers and comment what you would like to see. I will divine with anything, my dude. I've been doing this a long time, so I'm up for your creative ideas. Anyway, right, let's get into it. Some of you are tradcrafters, because I'm seeing the space betwixt the horns. I'm also seeing a stag. So if you don't identify as a witch or a tradcrafter, or you're not curious about those things, you may have just been interacting with stags, with stag mythology, with things to do with deer. I'm also hearing deer prices for some of you who are completely sort of skeptical or atheist and are coming here, you know, without that background. I'm hearing things have been too expensive for you as of late. So take the stag thing as you will. It's interesting, I don't know whether any of you have come from the channel for Pile 1, and you're welcome to watch as many bits of readings as you see fit. But Pile 1 did not do this circular thing that this one is doing, right? And it was spun the same way, using the same stuff. But there is a kind of, I want to say that's like, it reminds me of those like Zen calligraphy painting things. I'm going to be really appropriative without knowing what the proper term is. Let me know down below if you do know. But there's something about that shape. There's something about the stillness of a circle or a ring. Rings may be significant if you were coming for a love reading, right? That might be something. I'm hearing promise ring rather than engagement ring. So that might be something to expect in the near future if you were asking about something like that. But again, not for everyone. Broad audience, so I'm just reading for whoever and whatever, right? I'm seeing an owl on a branch and I'm hearing morai, so there is something or someone in your immediate environment which is acting as a guide for you and accompanying you, but I'm not sure that you're aware of the significance of it. So if you're doing certain things and your cat is following you around everywhere, and they're not just wanting feeding, pay attention to when they're with you. Or if you're out in certain places and you keep seeing the same form of wildlife, or even like if you're out and about and the same song is coming up when you're doing the same sorts of things, or when you're thinking on a certain topic, pay attention. This is your morai, right? This is trying to guide you towards something in particular. I'm going to integrate it so that we can sort of think about it a bit more. So what is your morai trying to show you guys? I'm hearing shake it off as I'm shaking that. So there's something, for some of you, there's a lingering comment from someone which I'm hearing is affecting your spirituality. Wow. It's kind of holding you back in some way. And I don't really know whether this is a personal thing or like a media brainwashing thing or what, but there's something you've internalized that is needing shaking off. It's a bit, it's not dangerous, it's just a bit sort of rancid. Rancid may be the band with the song that keeps coming up for some, so pay attention, okay? All right, what else have we got? You might be in a place which has been experiencing storms recently, and that is your confirmation that you're in the right thing. Whatever time of year you're seeing this, because people will come to it from different years and different places. So we can't generalize that it's an October thing. If you are here for October, I'm doing a reading every day, so do subscribe. What is that? What's that shape? There's a rune in this shape, which might be relevant for some of you if you work with that stuff. I'm not familiar enough with runes to know what that means, but it's interesting that it's come up. The other meaning for that is that it's like a backwards Y. So you're asking why something's happening, but the question isn't why. I'm hearing the question is how. If you've been going through something that's pushed you into victim mindset when that's not normally your space, or has made you question why it is that you began a process, or why it is that things don't work out for you, or something like that, and you don't normally think like that, don't ask yourself why this happened in the cosmic sense. Ask yourself how it happened. And for how, that makes me think that it's either something that you, there's either something that led to it, which is something you neglected to notice. So I'm thinking, you know, habits, interactions, dietary changes, you do you. Or with the how, there tends to be other people involved. There tends to be somebody perhaps having conversations that we're not aware of, or some kind of influence somewhere. Let's get more on this, because you're definitely not meant to ask why, because why makes you feel miserable, but how is useful and puts you in a position of power. There's something about somebody being stung here, because I'm seeing a jellyfish sort of shape with that one. But then there are other elements contributing that aren't to do with that. So if it resonated that somebody may have had an influence on your current situation unseen, then I think that they had an influence with people who are not equally butthurt or stung or sort of antagonistic as that person. So what I don't want you to do is find out that someone who you think would have been saying some shit did, and then for you to presume that everyone's kind of in league with them. I think if they did sort of try anything, it was relatively covert. And I think that it worked because there are other people involved who are actually quite innocent in this. Maybe even idealistic, because I'm seeing sort of cloudscapes and stuff in this one here, which makes me think of childhood. So yes, there may have been someone sort of stirring the pot, I guess, but there are also people around them that don't suspect a thing who were instrumental in a certain change that's left you feeling annoyed, distressed, whatever. I'm seeing polka dot patterns as well for some of you. I just saw them briefly as things were moving. So maybe something to do with a polka dot dress or spots. Like for some of you, this has corresponded to your body coming out in a rash or getting acne or something, which makes me think, look into like your body's messages back to you. So either something like The Body Keeps the Score or something like Louise Hay's work on healing the body through healing the mind. There may be something relevant in that. I don't think that's all of it, but I think that may help you to understand what's going on. And again, with this 3 parties thing, there is a third element that you haven't thought about to this. And what's weird is, in pile 1, we had all kinds of these little blots, and they were everywhere, and they were sort of collecting like iron filings. In this one, there's only really sort of 3 big clouds. I'm not sure why that is, other than it being third wheel, third party, something like that. I do have third party readings on this channel, but I don't feel it's necessarily romantic. I feel like it's just sort of an indication of a group that met without your involvement and made a decision. There's a bodice for some of you, or like it's not a bodice, it's what do they call it, like a dress template thing. So some of you work in fashion, and this is your confirmation that that's to do with where you work. Or maybe some of you are models or something, and there's something about, like, there's a reason I'm seeing a dressmaking template. I'm also hearing, what is it? I'm not hearing it, I'm seeing it, but I'm hearing Johnny Greenwood's score for, what's it called? It's a brilliant movie and I can't think what it's called. I'll put it as an overdub or a thing in the comments if I remember. Brain? No, it's gone. But if you're into dressmaking and Johnny Greenwood, you know the film I'm on about. But there's something in that might be relevant. I'm noticing that the herb has gone to the perimeter mostly in this one. It's like time's taking a back seat, or the idea of how long something takes is of little concern in a situation. Yeah, and now as I've said that, they're sort of moving further out, right? And again, in the previous reading, they were drifting around in a strange pattern. So I know that that's like confirmation of, so is this losing track of time? Is this time taking a back burner? What is this, guys? I'm told to like do that with the impact and get my message from that. Oh, I'm seeing a face now. That's interesting. Well, that's never happened before. Cool. There's an older man with a message about time. Time's not important. Some of you have been very future thinking in a way that's been quite negative for your mental health. And there is an older relative, dead or alive, who is advising that that's not the most positive way to progress. I'm getting like, don't think about the time that something takes, or don't think about the 5-year or 10-year plan regarding the particular thing that's stressing you out. Think about your sphere of control here and now. For some of you, if this is somebody that's not with us, and I don't always channel for that because it's an ethical minefield, but if it is, there's a sense that this person thought so long term that in the end there was something really crucial that they weren't able to enjoy while they were here. And they're kind of giving a bit of a, not a warning, but a caution that you put your focus now instead of on the 5-year, 10-year plan, because, you know, it's that trite expression about sort of life is the thing that happens while we make plans, right? And there's some kind of element about the future which you're not able to see right now. And it's not necessarily a bad thing or anything like that, but it's just like, why is your focus on all this long-term stuff that you can't control instead of on this beautiful present thing which you have full control over? And I think you'll know what that is by who's giving this message, right? Because it's something that they would have cherished as well. All right, give me more kind of practical earthy stuff, please. Thank you for that, though. Again, with rings. Now I'm hearing that song, like a circle in a spiral, like a wheel within a wheel, or something like that. I'll link it down below if I remember. It might have been something that this person that just came through liked as a song. Or it could be to do with a feeling of things spiraling out of control, but they're actually just circuitous. They're actually just coming back to the starting point of control. Or there's a loop. And now I'm hearing orbital, where time becomes a loop, right? Show me something in these. Some of you are Cancerian or Cancerian dominant, because I just saw the constellation as these moved. And some of you also associate with, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Pleiades, the Seven Sisters, and or the mythology associated for your part of the world, because they're like one of the only astronomical configurations that have mythology kind of everywhere about it, right? There are some things that are only in the Roman pantheon, only in the Vedic, etc. But the Seven Sisters or equivalent appear kind of everywhere. So look up what they mean where you are. I'm not going to go into starseed stuff because frankly, I'm going to lose some people with this, but I think it's a bit of a cope for the way that we've ruined our own planet. I'm not 100% on board with it. I like it as a metaphor. But if you relate to starseed type stuff and you sort of see both sides of that and you've come to a balanced thing of like, no, I feel I am one, that might be something for you. It might be a confirmation or a thing to look into that. Or you may be somebody with 7 sisters for some of you. And one hell of a mom, right? There is a feeling here with these of being an unintentional Pied Piper for some of you. I think you may have started a trend that you didn't intend to start, or you may have, the example I'm getting is like, you may have walked out of a job and then like people are falling like dominoes in your wake, right? Loads of other people are jumping ship, or you sort of decided to pursue something entrepreneurial within a friendship group and like now everybody's doing it, or something like that, where you've done something not to influence anybody else, but in doing that you've kind of woken a bunch of people up and they're like, I'm seeing them sort of bowing and saying, "Master, teach me your ways," like this kind of unintentionally being a role model for people. And I think the guidance with that is like, if the shoe fits, right, whether or not you intended it, try to be as good an example for these people as you can be, right? So if you did walk out of something and then a bunch of people followed you, bear in mind that on some level, those people are kind of looking to you for what they're going to do next. And if you're feeling resentment about that job, or you're not looking for work, or you're sort of flitting from one thing to another, or you're nervous or something, like that's going to have an effect on those people. And I don't want to put too much responsibility on you in an already stressful time. But what I do want to say is that if you know your true capabilities and your true strength and confidence and courage kind of outweigh what it is that you've been doing of late within this energy, then absolutely step into your power, because you've become a kind of de facto leader. And I think that's part of your purpose, dude. You may resonate with my last reading, the for artists, witches, writers and spiritual folk one, that was like a really long free channel. There's stuff in that about sort of not having a precedent for where you go next, because you're forging your own path and you're not looking to other people for how to do it, but realizing that other people are looking to you, right? Whether or not you want them to be. So you need to sort of be in your right mode, if you like. I'm going to put some more salt in, I don't know why. You might be in need of extra protections right now, and I don't mean that in a sort of worrying sense. I just mean that if you're already within magical practice doing things like regular banishings, regular cleansings, energy work, you might just want to up your level for the next week or so. That could be as simple as like the stuff in the media that would have affected you otherwise, or there's like weird messaging going on. Politically at the moment, there's a lot of strange things that intersect with the magical sort of fishing around. Just up it if you know how to do that. And if you don't know how to do that, that's absolutely fine. Your guidance is just careful what you take in, careful what you believe in terms of what you watch, what you read, just for a week or so from when you're seeing this, whenever that is. All right. And if you're seeing it in 2024, even more so, because it's a big year for all of us, right? And I don't mean to doomsay when I say that, but it's pretty much everyone within the magical current right now is going, oh wow, that's quite impressive, isn't it? And particularly astrologically, there's a lot of sort of markers for big events that require that we're all relatively spiritually autonomous. Okay, I feel like this is my pile that you're kind of already on that path, whether you know it or not, right? You're already marching to the beat of your own drum, and that's kind of why people have been following you, right? Or taking your influence on stuff if you don't feel that you're a guiding figure. Excuse me, hiccups confirmation. I'm also seeing these looking like autumn leaves drifting in water, and then I'm thinking of a particular ritual that I did when I was 13 in the back catalogue of eidetic ritual memories, where I essentially conjured a person. Two things to say about that. Firstly, it was absolutely successful, but not for another, I want to say over a decade. But I wrote a physical, emotional, mental, everything description of somebody down to eye shape, body hair distribution, focus in university, everything. And when I imagine that this will come true, but I'm pretty stressed right now. And then sort of it took me to not be stressed for me to have a door open one day, and there they were. So firstly, know that your manifestations are being taken care of, but not everything is immediate, right? Stuff happens when you're in the best position to receive it. And I don't want to say it'll be that long for you, because I had a very tangled and fraught journey with health stuff for a long time. But what I do want to say is, like, don't be impatient. And then the other thing to say about that is that if you are wanting to bring something about, be really specific. Don't let yourself think that you can't ask for this person has this piercing in this ear and not in this ear, or I mean, that's a really shallow example. So I'm not saying to, if you're manifesting love, for example, I'm not saying to manifest for shallow characteristics, because you will undoubtedly miss character things that are big red flags if you focus on that, right? And that's how karmics sort of come together, although I don't like that word. But it's an example to say, be as specific as you want to with what it is that you're bringing in. If you need a certain amount of money to purchase an apartment, you know, go online, look at the apartment you want, right? Whether or not it's available, figure out the current price range and ask for that exact amount or more, you know, but be specific in the amount. Or if you want to work, say, within the film industry, yes, ask for that, but also be like, and I want to be with this cinematographer, and I want to be in this city, or I want it to be on this project, right? You are only limited by what it is that you believe that you have entitlement to. And bear in mind that entitlement is a very loaded word, and it can be negative when we are presumptuous about what's for us and treat people badly as a result. But there is also a positive flip side of it, which is that if you are acting with integrity, and if you are of good character, and you're kind of following your purpose and following the guidance of spirit as it pertains to you, you can absolutely ask for the most specific shit that you like, and there is a cosmic sense within which you are entitled to it. I'm pulled to say, look at hypersigillic work and interstitial kind of stuff around that, if you don't believe me. There's a lot of that in the comics world. The immediate example that I always think of is Grant Morrison, but other people have done it as well, where they've kind of written a story about themselves where crazy shit happens, and then as they've been writing, the story has come true around them, and it's become a meta text of their life experience, for better or worse, right? Fascinating realm of study. I think there's a decent podcast on this from Weird Studies, I think it is. And it, again, if I remember, I'll link it down below, but certainly look into, if you know how to make a hypersigil, or you're interested in that word or what I've just said, look into it. Because I don't think your stumbling block with manifestation is necessarily self-concept or anything like that. I think the thing between you and your dreams is you believing that you can get the specificity that you would actually desire, right? I think maybe somewhere along the line someone has told you, that's amazing and you can probably do well with this career and make a certain amount of money, but you wouldn't be able to live here and do this and be going out with this person and having this thing. And I'm here to tell you that if you're seeing this pile, you absolutely fucking can. And I'm sort of proof of that as well. Like I did some really specific stuff with that beyond just manifesting a person. I sort of ended up against all odds with enough money to move to the city that they were in and do a bunch of other stuff, right? And it was because I was being a good girl in terms of purpose, right? And in terms of continuous guidance. But I also was really specific about what I wanted, the amount of luxury I wanted while I was doing that, all kinds of things that eventually came into play, and here we are. Anything else? I'm going to do one final drop. Some of you are getting into cycling. That's a really good thing. Be careful not to cycle over the same thoughts as you're exercising for others of you. Or if you are going to cycle over the same thoughts, as this is a manifestation pile, make them affirmations, right? There's some very good apps that you can sort of tailor to read stuff to yourself, which is then looped over nature sounds or music or whatever. You're essentially creating your own subliminals. And they tend to be more effective than if you go to somebody else for them, because you can target the exact things that you feel you don't believe and sort of, you know, reverse engineer them, right? It's a lot faster than going to a lot of the internet stuff. Although, if you are going to go to internet subliminals, in the love realm at least, I highly recommend Medusa. I've never not had results with anything she's put up, although I don't use all of them because some of them are, bless her, some of them are slightly toxic. But yeah, this is my subliminals pile as well, so this may be confirmation. If Medusa is watching, I love you. Thanks. Some of you as well, Medusa is relevant in a hair sense. You may be growing locks. You may be just sort of embracing your natural hair. You may be doing visualizations that involves having snakes for hair, or involves turning people to stone as a sort of magical defense thing. I don't know, but there's something there with Medusa and or the dark feminine. And again, if you search this channel, you can definitely find that kind of stuff, because that is my bag. I think that's it. I think that I'm hearing, I think that's your lot. Yes, it is. Thank you very much, pal 2. If this resonated, hit like, subscribe, ding the dong, thank you kindly. I'll be here with a video a day throughout Utober, so it is worth a subscription. If you want to book with me privately for more specificity, excuse me, you can do so from the 22nd of October. The shop will reopen, and I may even sort of put a way to tailor a reading if it's not available in there, or you can message me through Etsy and talk about what it is you want. But if none of that applies and you just enjoyed your time here today, I do hope you share me with other people so that the channel can grow, because I've been divining a long time and only on YouTube a short time, so I do want to grow my audience. And I hope that you have an empowering and beautiful week or weekend wherever you are. Pile 3. Let's get a word first, shall we? Q is for query. I mean, no shit, right? You came here to ask something, but this may be to do with a question that somebody else wants to ask you, or something like that. Let's have a look, shall we? They're all coming from the bottom in a very organised way. So I want to say, I think you were the structured pile in terms of the channeled that I've just filled, but there's something here about being very straightforward, structured, organised, systematic about stuff, which may come through in your reading. And we're in the 10th house, which totally echoes that energy, because it's this kind of goal-oriented Capricorn, high-achieving type A kind of a vibe, which may refer to you or someone else, but I sense for most of you it's you. I'm just going to sit with the messages on these cards for 2 seconds, and there'll be a quick cut, which hopefully you won't feel. Okay, pile 3. There's always one. I think this is my love reading. I mean, pile 1 may have had elements of a relationship, but it certainly wasn't loving. So this is the one for if you are, I want to say if you're in connection with somebody already, or you're interested in somebody where that could be like the immediate next step. They have a query, right? They have a question to ask you. I believe that this is in the 10th, because they want to get any worries about this out of the way so that they can climb the mountain, so that they can chase the goals, so that they can concentrate on their career in some cases, because 10th house can also point to that. But the 10th is very sort of aspirational. It's like a seat of power in terms of future thinking and step-by-step work towards that. So it is actually quite appropriate that we had that structured reference, or we will have in the ink divination. And I think that, yes, it relates to you, but also this person that you're involved with is very structurally minded, very systematic in a way that I don't think you've picked up on, or at least like you need me to reaffirm it as confirmation. For some of you, this is a person that you've never seen as being goal-oriented in the same way as you, because they've not taken the kind of path that you've taken. But I'm here to assure you that they absolutely do want to work through things in a very ordered fashion, the same way that you do. It's just that they sort of go about things slightly differently. I think that this Page of Cups over here, that you'll notice looks like a Two of Cups, right? He's holding two, but it is the page because this is the two in reverse. I think this is you. You don't have to be masculine identified for this to be true, but I think that whoever it is that you're interested in is in this sort of counterpart of Queen of Pentacles energy looking at you. Now, what that means in terms of identifiers, just for confirmation, is that this person may be older, or they may be a little further along in some areas of life than you. And that's not to shame you, it's just to say that experience levels are different. Or it may be that you're more of a romantic character, you're more sort of expressive of your feelings in a straightforward way, and this person is not closed off, but they're very sort of stable, practical. They perhaps put their career first in your eyes, although again I'm not sure that's true. And they certainly have the kind of, I want to say the kind of living environment and level of luxury that you would like for yourself, whether or not you have those things yet. And you might, but this is just how you identify this person, that they live exactly how they want to live, right? And they are doing well by many people's measure, even if they've not taken a conventional path. So this is the person, if you've got a couple of crushes going on and you're not really sure who this is that person that to you is like, I want to say is like wife material or husband material, or a good option in terms of home life and in terms of how secure they seem to be in themselves. And they may see you as a romantic type, but also somebody who is not fully decided on what they want, because there are these two cups rather than the page carrying just one. And when I was seeing this, I actually got the Two of Pentacles in my head, which talks about sort of juggling things. Now, as far as their query, this person is very, levels of things, right? This is the sort of person that I imagine would date for quite a while before they get sexual, or who would want monogamy, or who would want a structured way for a relationship to progress so that they feel secure, right? Security is a big theme with anything Pentacles. And I think that they have security, but they go about things in a way where they sort of only level up with something when they've had assurance at that level, right? Which again is an identifier, but it's also indicative of what the reasoning is for what they want to ask you. Two of Cups is usually about friendship. It can also be about soulmates. It can be about two people and the way they relate. What I'm getting, because you're carrying two cups and one of them is sort of really visible and at the forefront and maybe someone you're openly seeing, and the other one is like a bit more covert, and she's looking through the Two of Cups to ask this person a question. I think this person wants stability and structure with you, but they think you've got a friend who isn't a friend, right? I think they think that you've found a Two of Cups with somebody, which may be quite literally in card form stood between the both of you, or coming in the way of your relationship. For some of you, this is just that they can see that there are mutual friends that sort of have attentions to you, which could be romantic. And you're kind of, again, you're not looking at both cups, so you don't see it, right? If you're somebody who is attractive and gets a lot of attention and sort of has maybe, I don't want to say you breadcrumb people, but perhaps you have friends where the relationship is ambiguous and maybe one day it could turn into something, or maybe you used to sleep together or something like that. I think this person is seeing those figures around you and being like, well, is that a friendship or not? Because you're telling me it's 2 of Cups upright, which is very friendly. But what I'm seeing is that I can't get to you without this thing in the way. And that you're carrying a cup that you're not acknowledging, right? This is almost like carrying a torch for somebody. For others of you, this might be an ex or a best friend of the sex that you're attracted to, right? But there's certainly this thing of like, they're not... The Queen of Pentacles is never somebody to outright accuse anybody of infidelity or of malice or, you know, ethical malpractice in some way. But I think that there's someone who seeks security enough that they would be fearful or worried if they thought that you had a few plates spinning at the same time as them. And as I say, because they are so systematic with relationships, and possibly someone who doesn't give themselves away very easily until they feel trust, if they sense that there's something going on there, I think that would actively turn them upside down. It would actively make them go, no, I'm stopping this dead in its tracks. This is a red flag. I'm very systematic about my green and red flags. And unless I get an answer from you as to whether this is truly a friendship, I'm going to put this on pause for a moment. Notice that they're in the middle of the reading, kind of stopping anything from happening. With the 8 of Pentacles, this is because they want to work on it, right? The hidden motivation, the thing behind them that they're blocking you from seeing, is the sense of work, is the sense of accumulation, of building something together. So as much as you see this person as a stable bet, they absolutely see you as the future. But I think they don't want to show you that aspect until they know that you're not just emotionally involved with several people at once. And then beyond that, we have a Knight of Swords, which is, I mean, it's not facing either of you, but I feel it's connected to this one. The Knight of Swords is somebody who's a bit impetuous, a bit hasty with their words, who can occasionally say things that are a bit much, or blurt out things that they've been thinking because they've reached a point where those things are no longer manageable. Manageable being a very 10th house word, right? This person is used to managing and micromanaging in order to assure that their goals are taken care of. Excuse me. Hiccups confirmation. This may be a person who has a great deal of control in the world. And I don't mean that they're a control freak, and I don't mean that they will micromanage you. I mean that for whatever reason, their life circumstances have dictated that they have to be fastidious with different aspects of their life in order to be all-round successful in the way that you've seen them be. They have to be very controlled for some reason. And with this sort of aspiration of working with you being behind them, I get a sense that this person maybe has to hide what their emotional goals are from the public. They could be a person who's been around the type of personality that we saw in piles 1 and 2, and that has somebody kind of watching them, so they can't be public about their relationships until they're absolutely sure that a person is on their side, right? Or that they have this person's fidelity or monogamy, or at least an agreement that they're working on it together in equal measure. So if you felt a bit of maybe coldness from this person, or you are involved in more than one thing and this person's kind of cooled off or stepped back or something like that, know that that could be because they wouldn't have chosen this, but they have to have a high degree of control over their circumstances in order to remain safe from something you don't know about. And that means that if anything does throw them a red flag, that's it, right? There's no sort of third strike and you're out stuff. It's like, either I can trust you and we build up to being public very gradually, or I can't trust you and it's off, right? And I keep my emotions to myself until I know which of these things it is. Again, that is very feminine energy, just because those of us born female have to be extremely protective over our bodies in a different way, right? there's nothing like walking home alone at night as a woman to sort of teach you about remaining in control of your circumstances. And I don't know that it's that sort of a situation with this person, but there's certainly this, like, I want to say, like, the feminine urge to carry a weapon at all times. And I don't mean that they're on the attack. I mean that it's just like they've learned to put their emotions in a secret place. They've learned to weaponize their hypervigilance, and they've learned to really screen people, even within just like looking at their friendships. I'm getting like on social media or in a party or whatever, to be 1000% sure that they're not going to pull anything fishy, because there's some element for this person where it's not just humiliation at risk. It's like an active danger for some reason. And you'll know when you get to know this person more, or if you do, what that actually means, but it will resonate for some. The trouble is that what this person is fighting with is this impulsive Knight of Swords thing. I think that the Eight of Cups is quite an energy of accumulation in a way that the 9 and 10 don't really display in the same way, even though they're higher numbers. And that means that this has been building up and building up and building up in this person. And notice that they're holding a pentacle. They want to make you an offer, right? But it's like, I'm holding it aloft in reserve until I fucking know what this is, right? And I think that in holding it back and in holding their long-term plans with you back, when this might be a person who is so fastidious that they rarely make long-term plans or frame someone as being a long-term prospect because they're very careful, right? In all of that building up and building up and building up, they might end up just blurting out this as a question. And the reason I'm communicating to you today in this reading is that if they say, but what about fucking so-and-so though? You need to not be offended by the fact that they just rushed in like the Knight of Swords with this thing. And you're like, whoa there, don't you trust me? Or don't you trust this person? Or where the fuck is this coming from? Or I'm sorry, have you ever met this person? You know, because for some of you, this is watching you from a distance and sort of clocking who's interested without knowing your network, right? Particularly if you met online or if you haven't had that much involvement yet. This is somebody who will kind of screen you from a distance because they've been hurt, whether that's in relationships or somewhere else. So for you, it may be quite jarring to have a sudden query, which feels like an accusation, firing at you about someone they may or may not have a relationship with themselves. But the sort of advice, I suppose, sort of looping back round and under into this, what I call the rainbow of the reading, as some of you know, is that when they do ask this question, if they blurt it out or if it seems a bit abrupt, the basis of them asking is that they see you as long-term and they're afraid, right? They're afraid that you can't be trusted to be monogamous, or they're afraid that they're falling for somebody who's already entangled in something, when usually they're such a practical person, they're so level-headed. They think they've slipped up, they think you're hiding this cup, and they think that they were about to make you an offer which would make them look foolish, but also put them in a position of greater disadvantage in some way. You know, maybe they've got, to echo from pile 2, maybe they've got somebody watching them who would actively make them a laughing stock if this doesn't go right, or perhaps they've got an abuser in the vicinity who's very keen for them to fuck up, or whatever it is, right? But there's some reason that they want long-term with you. They want to build this towards that in a very gradual way. So don't freak out if you're not a long-term person, right? Because this is someone who will take it pentacle by pentacle over as long as you need. But that is the motivation for what actually is going to seem like hasty behaviour. And I don't want you to receive it badly, because I think they have good intentions at heart. And I think that even if they're watching you very carefully. It's not like that pile 2 energy where they're spying in a malicious way or a jealous way. It's that they don't know whether you're safe. And I think your response could be to reassure them, like, you know, there's no need to charge in with these questions. I will explain everything. Or if you are holding 2 cups, this is your pull to make a decision. Because the query is coming either way, my dude. And I think it's coming in pretty fast because it's only 1 card away. I hope that was useful to you. If it was, please confirm whatever you want to down below. Like, subscribe, ding the dong, thank you kindly. Please stick around for a channeled pile if you felt drawn to one, or any other of the tarot if you feel drawn to them as well, because they might relate. Things seem to interlink with this one in a way that I do quite like. And yeah, if you want any other kind of reading, check out the playlist elsewhere on the channel, and I will hopefully see you soon. Pile 3, this has been a very exciting channeling method. So for the other Marseille mini readings, which are in a playlist by the way, for the channeled section I've done kind of everything from just staring in space to using my hand for touch sensations of messages to flame gazing. This is the first time I've done the ink dropping thing. If you like sort of more unusual methods of divination like this, please let me know in the comments if you prefer this to the other stuff that you've seen. If you are a subscribed person, then let me know. I enjoy doing this, but I kind of need feedback on whether you guys enjoy it and want more of it. So yeah, feedback is appreciated. I'm going to drop some blessed salt and thyme into this bowl of water, just so that we've got stuff that the ink can interact with in a more interesting way. If you want to put your intention into the water or ask a particular question, absolutely do so. And then we're just going to see what shapes come up, and I'm going to do a reading from it. I'm very excited. I feel more excited than I have in the previous 2 piles, even though I've just filmed them. So that might be me picking up on your energy. Like there's something you're sort of vibing about, or you're pleased to see this for the first time, or something like that. There's like a hype energy. I'm hearing for some of you hype beast as well, so you might identify with a particular aesthetic, shall we say. Some of you live near a forest or woodland or something like that, and this is confirmation that this is right for you. Others of you are in, oh, this looks lovely. You're in like a fishing community that also has like woodland up a bank. If that is specifically for you, let me know in the comments, because I love confirmation, but it's just for some because this is a really general reading, as I hopefully said in the introduction. Okay, what? Oh, okay, I'm being told to watch the space between things, and now I'm hearing the space between the song, which I'll link down below. I think it's the Dave Matthews Band or something. Yeah, the space between... I can't think of the rest of the lyrics, but there's something about negative space, so you might be an artist. If so, check out the last reading sort of before this one, because it was for artists, writers, witches and spiritualists. And if you come from pile 2, I've already said that once, so definitely go. Alright, so this space. Space may be a thing as well. You may be into astronomy, astrology. You may deal with space clearing if you're a spiritual practitioner, or like feng shui, or something about space. Now what are you? Oh, wow! Okay, I'm seeing angel work for some of you. Don't know whether you saw that, but it sort of flew into the space as I was talking. Angels in America is relevant for some of you as well. I absolutely loved that when it was, I know it's a play, but when they did the mini-series of it, I adored it. Some of you, this is a very general reading, but I want to say some of you were affected in some way by the AIDS crisis as well, because of that reference. Okay, we have smoky beings as well as angels. So if I had to put money on my spirit worker pile, it's like pile 1 was relatively mundane but in a groovy way. Pile 2 seemed to be about manifestation. Pile 3 seems to be about interactions with non-human. So well done you. And if that's not something you're 100% identified with, or you're feeling like you're not comfortable, just know that it's just, there are things around you that are protective, right? You don't have to see them, you don't have to experience them, you don't have to interact with them. Nothing needs to be scary here, okay? Some of you are pregnant as you're watching, or you're sort of involved with somebody who's pregnant nearby. I think in Power 1 we had a baby shower, so you might have watched both. Or you might have like this channeled and then tarot from Power 1 or something. What else? I'm also seeing, like, it's funny because part of the way that we divine here is like Rorschach, but I'm seeing a literal Rorschach test over here. So some of you are psychologists, or you've recently watched Watchmen. Now the pregnant person is running. So if you're not pregnant, but you are like somebody who's a runner or who exercises daily in that sort of out of doors type way, there is something you're pregnant with in a sort of, metaphorical sense. There is an idea that wants to be born. There is a connection coming in that wants to happen, something like that. Let's get more detail on what that is. Can you still for me and then show me what I need to know? I'm getting a letter G, a letter S, a Y, GSY. Why do I feel like that's an acronym for some? And then I'm seeing old children's cartoons, like sort of pre-Looney Tunes era, of a dog chasing something. So I don't know whether this is something that's just happened to you, or you've been watching old cartoons or something like that. There's another S here. And now I'm hearing the Sun Dog, which wasn't that a short Stephen King story about, I want to say that was the one that was about a camera, like a haunted camera or something. And S could be for shutter, so that for some of you photographers, or there's something about Stephen King or something like that. I'm also seeing a jester figure here, so you may be a tarot reader and you've been working with Fool or Harlequin energy. Or what I want to say is that some of you have recently got into Lenormand rather than tarot. I don't know why that will come through with that, but it's just what I'm getting here. There's something about a blood clot as well. This isn't foretelling one. This is, if it's you, this is confirmation that either you've had one or someone very close to you has had something to do with a blood clot, or is needed to go on thinners or check their cholesterol in some way, or something to do with obstruction of the blood. And again, this is like, they always look like blood clots, but that's specifically what I'm getting. There's something here in that, right? I've had a couple of symbols in this particular pile that are how this thing looks anyway, but then it's been specific to that thing. So there's something about, with the woods in the beginning as well, it's like wood for the trees stuff. So let me think how to say this. Sorry, guys. There is a message that's been repeated to you in a very obvious way. And it's almost so obvious that you've kind of overlooked it. Or someone around you has stated the obvious and you've gone, well, yeah, that's obvious. But you're being pulled here to look at it again and go, no, it's true though, and it needs to be sort of examined. With the health messaging as well, if somebody's advised you that like a certain habitual lifestyle is dangerous, or that you need to sort of make sure you're checking on this thing or whatever, whether it's related to the blood or not, rather than be like, well, yeah, that's obvious, take their advice, okay? That's not a warning, it's not a doomsaying, it's just a friendly nudge that, yeah, they're onto something there though. Like, maybe listen. Some of you have had a bird crashing into your window. Hit me up down below if that's you. And I think that that was confirmation of something you were thinking about at the time, or a decision you were contemplating. This also could be in a movie you've seen. If there was a sequence, because it's become like a proper horror trope now, hasn't it? Of like a bird just flies into the window and then something bad's happening. And that's not necessarily to say that anything bad is happening for you, but if just before watching this you experience that in a narrative or something, think about what you were ruminating on or planning to do or something like that around that time, or even what the subject was within the film when that happened. Because there's something about your associative network that is keyed into this bird flying into the window. And it does kind of happen all the time, so this could be for a few of you. I had a pigeon dive into mine a couple of months ago. He was okay, he was just very sort of shaken. Bless him. He sort of did that thing with his head, like, addy, addy, addy. And then looked very embarrassed and flew away again. I'm seeing a hermit crab crawling. Get outside. I love you, but sort of transferring from your home to a trusted friend's home is not getting out and about. And there's something here about exploring your environment, or about being kind of too homebodied. Or someone near you, that if that's not you, then there's somebody sort of that you're close to that you need to do the neighbourly thing and kind of make sure that they get out of the house and that they're getting fresh air and just sort of new stimulation in some way. Hit me up with who that is if you're comfortable. I'm also getting that some of you are starting fires, sitting around bonfires, bale fires, bone fires. I mean, as this is going out, it is about to be Halloween, right? Bonfires. What about that? There's also a scorpion here for some of you, so you may want to look at my enemy reading that I put up this month. Or you're a Scorpio and this is confirmation or something like that. I'm also seeing a bat, so happy Halloween if you are seeing it then. It's funny that we're getting things like Stephen King and bats and stuff in this. It's a very sort of spooky pile. Whether or not that's what you're into, it's coming up for some reason. Let's just... Okay. There's a need for a particular cycle to be disrupted in order for you to see clearly. I think whatever you've been doing in order to make better decisions, I'm hearing cleaner decisions for some reason, is kind of the thing stopping you from seeing clearly in a weird way. So if you've been going to somebody specific for counsel, maybe take a break from that for a few days and see how you feel about where it is that you stand. That can include tarot stuff, by the way. It can include me or just tarot readings in general. But there's something about, like, you did something because you wanted a clearer head, but actually being kind of too restrictive with that thing is stopping clarity from coming in. I want to be specific that I'm not referring to addictions when I talk about this, because obviously it's good to stay clean if you're an addict, right? That's not who I'm talking to. But if you know that you've kind of eliminated something from diet or from habit or even like within a friendship group or something, so that you have a clearer mind, I think that reintroducing things with moderation is actually going to be what's going to clear up your foresight, your vision, your purpose for some of you. Can we get stuff about career, please? Excuse me. We'll need to change position. For some of you, you're worrying that you're in like a highly populated field, not necessarily competitive, but just something that a lot of people do. And you're not sure that you want to be in the company of a lot of people doing the same thing at the moment. It's almost like it seemed a safe place at one time to be in the company of lots of others, whether that's in a team setting or in terms of your industry. But now you sort of feel like, you just feel like one of many, right? There's this like drone feeling. And I think it's time for a change, or I think it's time to shift position, as I was saying, in order to sort of go your own way within what you already know. And how would you go about that? Learning a different language, if you're able, is something that might be really useful. Or utilising your knowledge of a different language to kind of have the same role but to a different network of people. And that might be where you want to put your focus in a more long-term way. Or for some of you, there's a way to do what you're doing in a way that is more mobile or more, I want to say, international. And I don't think you've fully explored that or even necessarily been aware of it. But that's something that's open to you if you kind of don't want to feel like one of many. Because I think for some of you, it's not that you're like a worker bee where you're the same as everyone else. It's that you're doing something that a lot of people are doing in an environment that isn't suited to you, or around people that are not the best people you could be working with. So if you don't identify with like switching your location or the language you're working in or something like that, this could be a case of just same thing, different setting, or same thing, different team. Or for some of you, I'm hearing like there's an offer that you were given and you turned it down at the time, but it might be more appropriate for you now, because it's just that slightly different environment that may bring you back to being empowered in whatever you do. And this is equally true if you're like a solopreneur or something. If you're self-employed, there's some kind of thing where stretching your abilities in terms of location, in terms of mobility, in terms of linguistic opportunity, etc., is going to be really positive. And now I'm speaking in a very ableist way, in a way that is sort of mainly addressing people in professional industries. But I feel like there's a broad scope way that it applies to everybody here, if you see what I mean. It's like there's a way to not be one of many because you're doing something different with it. And that difference is based on communication skills in some fashion. So it could be literal languages, or if you're like me and you've had a brain bloop or something like that that prohibits swift language learning, then it may be something to do with expressing within your job in a different fashion, or expressing yourself differently in order to get some income in, if that's you. What about love? I'm noticing you guys are more structured than the other piles. They kind of just gave me messages willy-nilly, and you guys are like, I'm asking questions in a much more structured way, and I don't think that's like a learning thing for me. I think that's you. I think you're going about things in a structured thing. I'm also like wanting to clear up the edges of the bowl. So some of you are listening to this while you're cleaning, or you're like cleaning up your life, or leveling up in a very strategic, organised fashion. And I want to say, like, great, but also go with the flow a little bit, or take the guidance in here a little bit as well, because it's always good to have a balance. And I'm very wavy gravy, so if you're extremely structured, then there's a happy medium that needs to be reached, right? As far as love life, whether you're single or coupled, there's someone that looks a bit grumpy right now, a bit angry. And they're looking away from me. like they don't want to meet my eyes. So I get a sense this is a temporary grump, but I also think they don't want to look you in the eye because of something recently. If you're not affiliated with anybody at all, then this could be that there's some level of grump about your previous experiences that needs to be released before you can meet someone new. But if there is anyone you're in connection with, be that situationship or very long-term marriage or whatever, they're like not wanting to... It's like a little kid throwing a straw because they did something bad and they kind of don't want to look at you because they know. But as we know with children, these things are relatively easily resolved with a bit of compassion and a bit of, you know, correct questioning of like, did you do the thing? Yeah? Okay, don't do the thing again. Let's talk about what's next. You know, it's very sort of, you could have, again with the systematic, but you could have a relatively systematic approach to resolving this. And it's not life or death, you know, whatever they were doing, even if they're feeling grumpy and guilty, in the scheme of things, in the long view, neither what they're arsey about or what you think of it is going to matter in 10 years, right? I'm hearing now they're Mardy bum, right, which is, I'm a traitor to my city saying this, but I don't like the Arctic monkeys really, but for me to get that, it's like someone's in a mard at the minute and you just need to let them be mardy and cool off and then be like, listen, you did some stuff, but we're okay. What would you like to do next, or what would you like to happen out of this? And for some of you, it's like an acknowledgement that there was an issue at all, because they're not meeting your eyes, right? So they won't say anything until you do. But I think there's a conversation that needs to happen there. Any final messages, guys? Lunar cycles may be really important at the moment. Menstrual cycles, if you're in a body that has that. You may also be interested in my lunar readings, which I do for a month. Excuse me. Hiccups confirmation. I think that's it for you, my guys. Yeah, because it's just sort of, it's again loops, circles, spirals, it's kind of going over the same stuff. And that may mean that you picked more than one ink pile, because we've had that theme come up elsewhere. But it also means that I've come to the conclusion of this particular reading. If you enjoyed it, please hit like, subscribe, ding the dong, thank you kindly. Share me with as many people as you possibly can, because I've been reading a long time, but it's a tiny channel, as you'll notice. So it'd be good to get some more exposure. And if you want to check out any other readings on specific subjects, I have 1001 piles within 60 odd readings, all available in assorted playlists on my main page. So if you want a lucky dip of the entire channel, that's there. If you want love, you can go to love. If you want something that's done with cartomancy, that's done with alphabetized stuff, whatever you want, right, there is something for you. So do check that out. Take care, and I hope to see you again soon.